Sergeant D, what's going on, man? How you doing, brother?
What's going on, Sergeant Major? How you doing today?
Man, I'm doing pretty good, man. Welcome to the show, man. I appreciate you folks welcome again to the Open Discussion Podcast. I have a very special guest on today. My little brother, I call him my little brother. Sergeant First Class Diop. Currently serving as recruiting command. 8 years of outstanding military service, right? I, mean, I don't know how you pull it off, man. 8 years already signed first class already. And recently, he was selected as one of the top 13 recruiters within the nation. That's a huge accomplishment, man. I'm proud of you, brother. I'm very proud of you. I know recruiting can be a very tough job. When I was serving, I was asked if I want to be a recruiter. I told him, hell no. I ain't doing that stuff. I don't know how you guys be doing it, but yeah, I take my hat out to you. But really, man, I appreciate you, man, coming to the show. I really appreciate you for your service and what you do for your friendship, everything else. I keep asking myself, right, because you are an artist. I've seen some of your work. You write, you sing, I mean, you do right, you do it all. But you end up joining the military, man. So I just want to get right into it. What was the contributing factor? What are some things that allow you to join the military, considering all the skills you have so far? You could have done something else. You could have been a superstar, out there, killing it, but you decided to join the military. So what was some of the contributing factor that encouraged you to join the army?
So I grew up playing sports, grew up playing basketball. I really loved basketball. I thought I was gonna make it to the NBA one day. Started varsity basketball in high school.
Man,
Um, I wasn't the greatest, basketball player in the world, but in my head, I thought I was.
of
So
course.
yeah, I ended up going to college. My freshman year in college, I was in Minnesota, up in Ely, Minnesota, some random junior college in the Boundary Waters. The middle of nowhere. I couldn't even tell you how you get there. You might have to hike to get to the school. But yeah, I was there. College was cool. My sophomore year, I transferred to a school in New York, played college basketball there. Um, my sophomore year of college was really tough. I I would say after a month of getting to the school, I was told that I have to move out of the dorms because my financial aid didn't cover room and board. I was out of state student. So I was kicked out of the dorms and I spent a majority of my sophomore year homeless.
And
So
I didn't know that.
yeah, I was homeless my whole sophomore year in college. I didn't tell my mom, my dad, because African parents, they like want you to stay in the same state, go to school here, and I
Yeah.
didn't want to hear oh, we told you so. So I spent my whole sophomore year homeless. I was, jumping from room to room at the school. Has a few of my teammates let me crash on the couch one night, go another room, crash on another couch, had one small book bag with my clothes. And yeah, I did that because I was determined to get my associate's degree. I was trying to get my associate's degree at the time, and I was like, man, I just let me finish this year, I'll get the degree, and then whatever happens. So I ended up going to a mall one day, window shopping, looking around over there, and then I ended up seeing a recruiter.
Uh-oh, the recruiter got you in the mall, huh?
I ended up seeing a recruiter. But at the time, I actually was trying to join the Marine Corps. I went to the Marine Corps, talked to the recruiter, tested, took the practice test. I was good, no issues. And then I guess the Marine Corps recruiter was going on leave and he forgot about me.
Wow.
S- So I'm over here, every day calling him, no answer. I guess he was on leave. I ended up going back over there, but ended up meeting the Army recruiter on my way to that office. And they was like, hey man, what's the issue?
They done
I
scoop
was
you
like,
up, huh? They
I
done
was like,
scoop you up
man,
from the
I'm
guy in
trying
the
to
Marine
join the
Corps.
service. I'm trying to join the service. They not helping me out. He was like, hey, come to the office. So I ended up going to their office, man. A week later, I was enlisted.
Those damn recruiter, boy. You got to keep an eye on them.
Yeah, they
Those
they
damn
got me,
recruiter,
man.
bad.
So
Bad.
yeah,
That was,
I ended up joining, and I was going to do just one contract and get out. The biggest thing that made me join was citizenship. I was a green card holder, so
yeah.
I wasn't a U.S. citizen. Just trying to figure out life at the time. I was going to do one contract, get out, but I ended up joining. Got locked in, and 8 years later, here I am.
That's amazing, though, because my situation a little bit different, right? When I decided to join, right, I didn't tell my mom nothing, right? I mean, I decided I was going to join the military. I went, saw the recruiter, took the load test, whatever the case may be. A week before I went through the map, that's when I told her, I said, hey, Mom, guess what? I'm joining the military. She said, what? I said, yeah. She said, well, you got my blessing. African mom, you got my blessing the whole 9 years. So that was pretty good for me. So how did your parents, how did your mom and everybody feel about it when you decided you were going to join the military? You told them about it.
um, Honestly, I could say my mom and dad was against it. They was against it from the beginning.
Yeah.
They was like, no, my dad didn't want me to do it. Everybody was against it. They didn't want me to do it. because just the fear of the wars
Yeah.
and all that stuff that they hear. But I'm a person that I wouldn't say I like to prove my parents wrong in certain situations if I'm confident in myself and I know it's gonna be a good outcome. So I ended up joining, and once they started seeing, okay, he started college again, he's doing this, he's doing
Yeah.
that. Okay, maybe this not bad for him. So, then they started coming along.
That's pretty cool. How was the transition, right, from college campers and doing the things you're doing, how the freedom and flexibility to do the things you want to do? Now here you are, basic training, AIT, and then bam, station. How was that transition from the civilian into the military? If you can talk a little bit about your training, how was it? Because for me, I had a problem, man, on the range, man. I couldn't shoot my weapon to save my life, bro. I'm telling you. The dress I was on my ass. So you better get it together, Zoker. So I went out there, shot my little 24, and I'd have graduated for some reason. So and if you talk to other folks who serve, right, we all go through different things when you talk about just basic training, right, in terms of transitioning from civilian life to military life, the structure in place, where to be, how to be there, what you're gonna look like. I mean, the whole everything is all structured. So how was your transition in terms of physically, emotionally, mentally?
Um, I would say when I got the basic training, it was a culture shock. I'm used to freedom, doing
Yeah.
doing what I want to do. Then I get to basic training, and they took the phones, and then they started to yell in
You
your
said
face.
they took the phone. We didn't even have phone.
I,
We had pay phone back in the old days.
I mean, at reception, I think they didn't take the phones immediately, but we couldn't touch them
Oh
unless
man.
whatever until we went back at night. But it was just weird, standing in them long lines at reception, contemplating my life like, dang, I got to be here for 9 weeks or 10 weeks. So I thought when I first got the basic training reception, I thought that was basic training. So I didn't know that we had to do a week or a few days there
And
in process and then get sent to basic. So
that's all
maybe
started, right?
yeah, my recruiter didn't clarify that stuff. I just got sent. So yeah, I thought that was about to be my life for the next few months. So it was hard, but the people made it better.
Yeah,
You're gonna find your little friend group. You're gonna
yeah,
click up with some friends, and you hang on to them guys and girls, and that's what's gonna get you through training. So the physical side wasn't hard for me because I was an athlete, my
yeah,
whole life. So
yeah.
I didn't have a problem with PT, running, and none of that. I was a terrible shooter though. Hey,
Well,
I'm
I
right there
told
with
you,
you.
same here, man, on the range
I
all
could
day, man. I can't
I
hit
could
that
shoot to save
target.
my life. I thought I was hot. I thought I was, hot shit until we went to the range, and the whole platoon then zeroed, and I'm
They're
still
waiting
over
on
there.
you, right? They're
They
waiting
still
on
waiting
you.
on me.
Hey, the damn boatload line waiting for you. All right, man, we ain't got all day now. That's
Yeah, I was one of the
amazing,
last
man.
people to zero, man. But shit, I made it though. I still graduated. And then
Oh man.
AIT was fun though. AIT was more like college structured. Go to class, come back on your phone. You got your phone, they ain't take it. It's more of a gentleman's course. We got passed, got to go out here and there. So it wasn't bad. And then
Yeah,
AIT started getting you excited for the real army because it's like every single step was more freedom.
yeah, yeah.
So when I knew I was about to be done with AIT, I'm like, dang, I'm about to be free.
That's amazing. Do you still remember your dress sergeant name?
From AIT or basic?
Basic and AIT, or just AIT, and just if you just one of them.
Um, So I mean, basic training. I had drill sergeant. Drill sergeant Warwick. He was a ranger guy. He was one of my female drill. I mean, a male drill sergeant. I had a female drill sergeant too. Womack. Yeah, Sergeant First Class Womack. I remember her. AIT. Uh, uh, One of the guys. He's retired now. He's a teacher at AIT, but start with an M. Mr. Mays. Yeah, yep. Sergeant First Class Mays. He's retired now. He's a teacher there. And then yeah, that's pretty. I remember my recruiter name. Sergeant First Class Warwick. He
Yeah.
retired last year.
Same here. The reason why I asked that question, we all remember our dress sergeant name, no matter what it is. I had two of them, dress sergeant Carr and dress sergeant Kane. Carr was on my butt, man. I got hated my guts for some reason. I was not a terrible recruit, I did everything on time, everything was great. But in dress sergeant Kane was a guy who, he was real, real good. And dress sergeant Carr, so I went through basic training, like I said, way back in the days, right? 1998, long, long time ago. So fast forward, 2006, I'm deployed to Iraq. We had a little shop at Fop Spiker up and up to Crete, whatever. And I'm in the shop at right, getting some stuff, to go on patrol, whatever. I put my hand inside. Guess who I saw? My dress on. I'm like, man, is that him? So he was trying. It was the same thing going back with Peter stuff. So he looked at me, I look at our eyes kind of, kind of locked in, whatever. He said, Zoker? I said, Drill Sergeant. He was an E8, I was E7. So I was like, oh man, that guy got promoted to E7. I saw the look on his
Dang.
face, right? So
You was
man,
an
it's
E7
amazing.
already?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was amazing just seeing him, whatever the case may be. I know we all can remember our Drill Sergeant because there was a special man and women that really shaped our lives as we transition from us civilian to military. Uh, so you went through basic training, you graduate, whatever the case may be. Then how was your first, assignment? Because now you are leaving from a structural area where things is all time consuming, whatever you hear and whatever the case may be. Now you at your regular unit. How was military life overall being in enlisted personnel? What are some advantages and disadvantages? Some things you saw that you'd be like, okay, man, I think I can do this, whatever the case may be.
So my first duty station wasn't I wouldn't call it an easy duty station because I got sent to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, home of the
That,
101st Air
that's the
Assault,
Screaming Eagles, man. You're doing
Screaming
big things
Eagles.
out there.
So when I say Fort Campbell, it is the Army. Everything is still rules and regulations. Like nothing changes. The culture, they pride themselves on the culture, the fitness,
Yeah,
everything. It's crazy. So when I got there, aerosol school was a big thing.
yeah,
So I was a private. I think, but I would say I was a whole motivated private because I got to my unit on a Thursday and I talked to first sergeant that Thursday and I said, hey, first sergeant, the first day I got there, when can I go to aerosol school?
yeah.
He was like, we got to walk on Monday.
Mm,
So that weekend, he was like, yo, clear your schedule for the weekend. I'm gonna have you meet with Sergeant so-and-so, gonna show the aerosol school layout and everything. So over the weekend, talked to the guy, bought some stuff, set me up for the layout. Monday morning, I was there waiting for a walk-on slot, got on.
Man,
And, as a private, I ended up passing aerosol school first time go. And then, I guess it was other NCOs at the unit who been there way longer than me
yeah,
and some of them had failed aerosol school. So to pass that as it was already a good look coming there. Um, yeah, the PT, the culture. I'm supply, so supply kind of different. You don't
mm,
just come in. You might get sent to a unit and you might be the only supply guy. You might not have a NCO. You might not have a platoon sergeant who molds you from like a private all the way, specialist and all that. So when I got there, my NCO was getting out, so I got thrown into like an E6 position as a private and told figure it out. So and
man,
then in FA, Charlie Battery is the biggest unit. So I was in charge of the Charlie Battery in a field. I've been my whole career field artillery.
yeah.
So
The best branch, man. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
here and there, it's all right.
The best branch, you know what I'm saying? So that's amazing though, because we all went through the same situation, right? When you first report to your first unit, not knowing what to expect, really, and that can really
hmm
shape your whole military career. I've talked to a lot of friends of mine who somewhat departed, left the military just because of the first unit, because that's really for a lot of folks is what they see,
And I
you know.
almost was one of them.
Yeah,
So I don't know. Fort Campbell was kind of tough. Just due to the constant go, go, go. I mean, I would say I wasn't married at the time, but I seen it was harder. Now that I am married, I see why the married people were a little stressed out a few times because we JRTC, come back, deployment, come back, go here, come back. I was in Iraq. I was only at Campbell for what, 9, 10 months, and then we was JRTC and then sent to Iraq for 9, 10 months. So
mm,
when I was in Iraq, I was talking to my first sergeant, like, man, I think I'm gonna get out. My contract was getting close to being done, and then I had a black first sergeant. First sergeant Hunt. I never forget him, but he was just like, "Hey man, I was in Germany. I think you would like it in Germany." And I was like, "I don't know, first sergeant." He said, "Look, just reenlist, go to Germany. If you don't like it after, then you can get out." And then, yeah, he was the reason why I reenlisted. We still cool till today, but I wasn't an easy lower enlisted soldier. I would say that because I was a person who um it was hard for me to adjust to the higher ranking telling you what to do and
yeah,
yelling at you. And I'm a person who I speak my mind sometimes, and if I feel like I'm being done wrong, I'm gonna handle it my way. So it took years of just trial and error before understanding, okay, there's different channels, there's different ways to handle situations without just going straight forward. I've took a lot of classes since I've been in the military. So active listening, emotional intelligence, the delivery, just different things that's molded me now to where I can analyze a situation before I yeah, I attack or whatever the case may be. But I would say Iraq was a wasn't an easy deployment. Was there for 9.5 months. Lost about a buddy of mine's.
Mm.
He
Sorry to hear
committed.
that.
Yeah, he committed suicide. So that was my first real instance of a situation like that. So yeah, it was tough, but so far, like I said, I wouldn't trade any experience that I've had because it's made me to what I am today.
That's amazing. That's what make the Army just the military as a whole, right? All six branches now, if you include the Space Force. Just transitioning from the civilian side to the military in terms of how you change in a good way to some extent, because it's very structured, like you said so far, right? Very rank structure in place, the chain of command. You got to understand how things work. And I tell folks the Army is the easiest place to be. I mean, you tell me where I got to be, where I got to wear, what to do, whatever, initially. And as time progresses, you now, you're a senior non-commissioned officer now. Now you're in charge, not telling folks what to do. So the same stuff you were somewhat reluctant to do, like, whatever, whatever. Now you the guy or girl telling folks what to do. I mean, that's just how the Army work, and it's just the process. And I tell folks, just be humble. There's nothing wrong with you speaking your mind, but it has to be done in a very professional manner, of course. I mean, I was honored to serve with you. I saw you never mistreated anybody, you didn't disrespect anybody, whatever the case may be. So, I mean, it was pretty amazing. So as we transition so far from first unit deployment and everything else, and now you decided I'm going to do something else where I'm gonna be a recruiter. Gotta tell you, there's no money you can pay me out here to be a recruiter, because years ago, recruiter was like a death sentence for some reason. I don't
Yeah.
know why. A lot of guys go to recruiting command, whatever the case may be, and their career just stuck because the demand of the folks that come in, just the requirement overall. So if you can talk about your decision to become a recruiter, because if I talk about it, I was like, wow, you're doing pretty good still where you at. But I think it was a good choice for you. How was that decision to go recruiting? And so far, if you can discuss recruiting command and stuff like that, how you been doing so far? I mean, you're doing pretty good, right? Selected as one of
Yes.
13 recruiter in the country. So that's pretty amazing. So how's that going so far?
Um, so I've always been a people person. I've always been a go-getter. I've always been a person who's, able to talk to people, different cultures. I don't care where you're from. I'm able to talk to anybody. But it just came a time where I was thinking like the military did this for me. I'm
Yeah.
sitting here now, a person who didn't have a citizenship. The military gave me that.
Yeah.
Didn't have my first car. The military gave me that. I didn't know what $1,000, 2,000, whatever it was, the military gave me all that. So if I can help other people and give other people the same stuff that the military has given me, I actually volunteered for recruiting because I felt like, it was just my calling. Um, recruiting command, recruiting command is I'm not recruiting command is amazing. I'm like recruiting from recruiting school, the instructors are amazing. They teach you everything by the book. They show
Yeah.
you what to do, how to do it. So you're not just lost when you're going into recruiting command. I feel like in recruiting what makes it hard for people is when you start doing stuff that takes you away from, I would say, the science and the art of recruiting. Because they teach you how to recruit. They teach you the types of prospecting methods. They teach you you get to your recruiting station or your company, you learn your areas. They teach you about your community, going out there meeting different people. So they give you the blueprint. It's what you do with the information that recruiting command gives you is will dictate how successful you are, your work ethic too. So recruiting is a go 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 environment. I would say, in the combat world, they're go 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 in the field, they're going hard. And recruiting, we're going hard because every second policies change,
Yeah.
regulations change. There's always different things changing, and you have to be on the train. You always have to be on the train. You have to understand, okay, tomorrow this can be approved, but tomorrow this can be disapproved. Today they're letting this type of people in, the next day they may not. So you always have to be on the train and understand. And as long as you do that, you're gonna be fine. And then the leadership, you have to ask questions. You got your SMEs there. You have to ask questions. A lot of times, recruiters don't ask questions. I'm a
Hmm.
person, I don't care if I'm a E10, E9, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna ask questions if I don't
Yeah.
understand something. Like I'm never scared to say I don't know something. I don't know. I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna ask the correct questions, and that's it. That's why recruiting hasn't been hard for me. If I don't know something, I ask questions.
Yeah.
I do what they tell me. I work hard. I go out there. I put in my hours, and everything else just kind of puts itself. But recruiting's all about your brand. I tell people this. I tell even the new recruiters that come into the office. I tell people in USAREC, recruiting is your brand. So you got Nike, you got Adidas, you got all these top brands, right? People have to want to buy the brand.
Yeah.
So if you're a recruiter that's known in the community, that's respectful, that treats people good, that every person that you helped has had a good, review or good rating of you, and they spread that throughout the community, your brand is just is building and is getting better. So the better you make your brand, the more success you're going to have in recruiting. But if you don't build your brand and your business, you're going to struggle. So in recruiting, you have to build your brand. You have to make yourself, whatever your name is, whatever rank you are, you have to make yourself appealing to whatever area you're working, so that people will want to work with you. And then you just have to market yourself, because brands, they market themselves. They go
Yeah.
out there, they advertise, they do different stuff. That's how brands get known. No one's gonna know you if you don't market yourself. So you have to go out there and do what you're supposed to do to build your brand.
That's pretty cool, man. I have very high respect for recruiters in U.S. Army, because recruiter are the first phase of the military, in my opinion, right? Because those are the folks that civilians see folks to make contact with a person who may be potentially who have no idea what the Army is all about, or who is somewhat interested but don't understand what Army life is all about. So far, I have a lot of high respect for you guys as a recruiter, and ladies who go out there day to day trying to encourage folks and tell the folks about the military. So, hey, I think there would be a good path for you. Uh, how is it? How does it usually go if you can't? I mean, you don't have to go into no deep details in terms of the day to day life of a recruiter. If a guy or girl who currently serving on active duty want to consider to become a recruiter, how does it work when you first show up to the organization? You go through training, the whole 9 yards. Like you said, you have some folks who you will help you to provide some kind of oversight to help you, along the way before you can start doing your own thing. Is that a requirement? Meaning for this quarter or for this month, you have to bring in recruits, 5 or 6 folks. How does the process usually work, and what is the requirement so far?
I mean, so when I came to recruiting, I didn't know anything, because they don't expect you to come, to recruiting, knowing anything. That's why you go to recruiting school. So when I went to recruiting school, there's different stages that you go through, and you learn so much stuff. They teach you the science behind recruiting. They teach you, all the regulations. You learn all that stuff. And then once you get to the station, you apply that science that you learned, and you start, using the art of recruiting. You learn you use the techniques and everything that they've taught you to help you once you get out there. But even when you get to your recruiting station or your battalion, the training doesn't stop. You get there, you're enrolled in the ATP. You're given a certain timeline. You do training with your, station commander, your first sergeant. So the training in recruiting, training never stops, because, like I told you earlier, things are always changing. Regulations, policies, stuff is always changing. So training never stops. And as a recruiter, as long as you're open to continuously training and continuously learning regulations and understanding how processing and different things work, you'll be fine. But the CG's intent for recruiters is one a month. Um,
That's amazing.
one one a month. So I would say about 11 a year, right? So certain areas I understand. Certain areas I understand. You might be in an area where the nearest high school is 3 hours away. You might be in a area where MEPS is 4 or 5 hours away. So there's different things that can affect your numbers.
Yeah,
Which those areas I wouldn't say they're hit as hard, because leadership, of course, understands the area that these people are working in. So they might have a smaller mission.
got you,
But for
got
the
you.
areas that historically they know can produce high level, contracts, of course you're held to that standard.
Yeah,
So even me being here in Kentucky, like, it's not hard finding people out here. There's a lot of people who want change. There's a lot of people who, want help, who want just a different direction. They're all over the city. Our nearest high school, I can get to 5, 6, 7, 8 high schools within 10, 15 minutes.
that's a big
My
market.
MEPS, my MEPS is 15 minutes down the street from the office. So there's no excuse to why you can't put in, meet your numbers or whatever. And even with the people who are meeting numbers, they, like I said, there's training. There's always training. They don't, oh, you don't put somebody in 1 month, your career's over. No, you don't put somebody in 2 months, your career's over. No, the leadership does a good job by doing so much training. They give you all the tools. They're there to help. But a lot of times, people who are struggling don't seek help. And then by the time, they do seek help, it may be too late, to where that you've been doing this same pattern for so long. Now it's a problem. But the tools are there. Everything is, set up. Recruiting is not hard. I don't think recruiting is hard at
I
all.
mean, you successful out here. It comes easy for you, I guess. But that's amazing though, because other folks just don't get it. We don't understand who have not done it in the
And that's the
past.
thing though.
Yeah,
They say it's easy, but when I first got here, I was working till 7, 8 o'clock. I was working Saturdays and Sundays, not by like my leadership told me to do it. I did it because I was building my brand.
yeah.
So my whole first year here, I spent building my brand. I did stuff outside of what I was supposed to do to help build the brand.
That's amazing. You have to. You have to though. What is the? I mean, I know you don't have to go into specific policy, whatever. What is the minimum requirement if I want to join the military today? What's the minimum requirement as far as the age of this any kind of waiver, whatever you can talk about in terms of folks who listening to say these are the minimum requirement you have to meet to be considered, eligible.
So the age limit goes up to about 42.
Oh, okay,
Anything, yeah. So anything over 35 years old requires a AGTP. So green card holders, as long as you have a green card, as long as you've been in the U.S. for at least 365 days by
okay.
regulation. 17. So you have to be at least 17. 17, you can start the process, you can join, but it requires parental consent.
Yeah.
18, of course, you don't need parental consent. Law violations, we take a certain amount. It just depends on, the way you play it and what the regulation reads based off
Yeah.
what this person has. Um, Tattoos, we're letting tattoos in now. So hand tattoos, all these different tattoos are getting approved now. Nothing, too high over the
Yeah,
neck,
no Mike Tyson tattoo in
no
the face,
face,
right?
no face tattoos, stuff like that. Um, but yeah, it's high school diploma, GED. There's so many different things that even a foreigner, somebody who went to high school in a different country
Yeah.
and comes to the United States and never went to high school in the US, as long as their degrees gets evaluated
Hmm.
and it meets the US high school equivalency, then they can use that degree with a tier evaluation to join the army.
It's pretty
So a lot
cool,
of
man.
people don't, a lot of people think they're too old sometimes. I'll talk to
Yeah,
somebody 32. Man, I'm too old to join the army.
yeah.
Well, we accept till 42, man.
Sign me up. Yeah, that's pretty cool though. So what would be some why should somebody be a recruiter in your opinion? Because no matter what it is, right, there's always an advantage, disadvantage. There's always a pro and con, whatever the case may be. But I know for one fact, I've spoken to a lot of recruiters. It is a good assignment. There's no future in the exercise. You're home. I mean, it's very structured in terms of you go home every night. There's no deployment, the whole 9 yard. And I believe it's what's it 3 years commitment, something like that. But why
Mm-hmm.
should somebody consider being a recruiter?
In my opinion, I think people should, really consider being, in recruiting. It's not about like the numbers, it's not about the accolades, it's not about that. You literally see the transformation of people from their current situations to them joining the army to just a complete change. I've seen people join the army weighing this much pounds, come back, then lost 30, 40 pounds from basic, they have more confidence about
Yeah.
themselves. You'll see somebody who was damn near homeless, goes to basic training, saves up some money, comes, they're able to buy their first car, they're able to do this, and then I work a lot of foreigners, so I've seen people with green cards finally, get over that hurdle and get their citizenship. So it's just seeing the transformation affecting people's lives. The recruiting, we're really involved in the community, so it's not just you're building relationships, you're affecting the whole community of wherever you're at. That's what recruiting is about. It's about building relationships, it's about connecting, it's about changing people's lives, it's about changing people's viewpoints on the army, and providing people different avenues, different ways that they can change their life. So recruiting is very rewarding. It's not just about numbers, it's not about um accolades again. It's truly about changing people's lives. So if you, just like my recruiter met me at the mall, explained to me different things, changed my life around, that's the same thing that recruiting can do for anybody looking for change.
That's pretty cool though. And you just answered my second question. I was going to ask you in terms of why, is you a person who just graduated high school or just doing because we all serve for different reason, right? Some folks, I just want to serve because folks in my family serve, or I just want to serve because I want to get out of my current circumstances. I want to serve because I want to get back to my country, whatever the case may be. Why you think the American population, because what is it, 1.1% or 0.09% serve within the military, very small percentage. For a country that is population up to 336, 37 million, whatever. Why should somebody join the military, in your opinion? Based on your experience serving active duty, not recruiting duties, whatever the case may be, you've been very, very successful within your military career. Why you think folks should join the military?
The military in general is just it's an amazing organization. Um, if you look at the military, we're an organization. Well, the army in general, we are an organization that builds our leaders from privates all the way up.
Yeah,
Like it's a lot of these leaders that are in these leadership positions one day went to a recruiting office, got
yeah,
recruited, they joined, they were a private, they went through everything that the lower enlist is going through. They became sergeants, staff sergeants, sergeant majors, they became, lieutenants, majors, captains, all that, all the way to generals. So the military is a great way. It's a stepping stone. So they offer everything that's in the civilian world. From if you're trying to get your education, situated, you can join the military. If you're trying to, get into real estate, stuff like that, you can join the military. If you're trying to just get stability, get your family situated, you can join the military. A lot of people look at the military as, oh my God, if I sign, my life's over. It's
yeah.
for everything. No, the military offers you all the tools that's offered in the civilian world. They offer it, but they just want you to come use the tools while in uniform, assist the force, help them help you, and it's a win-win for everybody. But the military is a great way for any young person who's doesn't know what they want to do, who's looking for change, looking for direction, just trying to mature in life. The military is a definitely a great way to go.
I fully agree with you, man, because my term, the military, I tell you, I would not change nothing. The military was very good to me and my family, give me things I never had, open my eyes to things I never saw really, from creating lifetime relationship with folks that I still talk to after 25, 26 years. And the Army has been, I mean, it has been a place that it is hard to put in words, but until you experience it, you're not going to know it, man. It's the best place to be, in my opinion. It's the best place to
Agreed.
be. It's the best place to be. It's been amazing so far for me and my overall family. One question I've always asked myself, I've been asking it to determine, I somewhat I think I have an idea. How does you guys, the recruiter, right, determine what MOS the person may have? I know probably based on your test scores and stuff like that. Because sometimes, man, they be sending some guys, yeah, you need to be infantry guy for some reason. So how you guys determine that? How does it usually work?
So one, I'm really transparent with every applicant that comes in the office. I bring the applicant in the office. I show them all the jobs the military has to offer, explain to them everything. But I always tell my applicant this: when it comes to joining the army, you have control of this process. And I say this because your ASVAB score dictates what you qualify for.
Mhm.
So if you really want a good job in the army, you need to take advantage and study. You need to study, you need to practice everything that you need to be successful in the ASVAB. Because by you doing that means you're taking this whole process seriously. Now, us recruiters, we work with what you give us. I'm being honest. I tell every
Uh,
applicant this. If you score a high ASVAB score and you qualify for almost every job that the Army has to offer, then we're gonna have a long list of jobs to go over, and we're gonna find the job, the top five, we'll narrow it down, and we'll pick the job that best fits your needs and what you want to do in the Army.
yeah,
Now, if you're a person who doesn't score super high in the ASVAB and you score, decent, you may qualify for some decent jobs. Now we're going to have to sit down and narrow down that pool of jobs that we do have for this score and see out of these jobs what is the best fit for you. You can't score 31 and tell me you want to be a doctor,
X-ray tech. No,
an
brother.
X-ray tech or
Nah, nah,
whatever.
nah, nah. We got a job for you.
It's not gonna happen. And a lot of times people don't understand that because
Yeah,
they take the ASVAB, they don't get the score that they want, and then they get mad at the recruiter. It's not the recruiter's fault. The recruiter's not taking the ASVAB for you. The recruiter's not the one putting the jobs in the system. The recruiter's not the one, picking these jobs for you. The recruiter is there to assist you with the process so that you can be successful in your future career in the army. That's what the recruiters is here for. So there's no scam with the ASVAB score. We work with what you give us.
Yeah,
That's when it comes to an MOS, you want that top tier MOS, you got to give me a top tier ASVAB score.
you got to get into work. So how long does she? Well, it's probably based on a person level intellect in terms of when a guy or girl comes to you, or you see somebody for the first time, you trying to explain the military to them, and you come to realize they are somewhat interested. How long does it usually take for a guy or girls to get prepared to take the ISBAR? And have you experienced in the past where a person took the test, they score a little bit lower, they want to go back and retake it again? How does that process usually go? If you experience it in the past?
Usually when I bring someone in the office, especially for the initial appointment, we usually always do the practice test. That
Okay,
lets me know, gives me a little idea kind of what you would score on the real test. So, if someone scores super high and I'm confident that I know that they're going to pass the ASVAB, then within a week or so, probably give them another week to study. Within a week or so, we'll try to send them, of course, to go take their test. But if it's somebody who scores super low, probably give you some study material, give you about 2 to 3 weeks to study, bring you back, give you another practice test. And then, if you pass, then we'll set you up for the ASVAB. Because the ASVAB, if you fail, you have to wait 30 days to retake
yeah,
it.
retake it.
But the practice test, you can take it as many times as possible. So I feel like slowing down the process and kind of sending people, when they're ready, kind of helps the applicant too, instead of kind of, rushing them. But it just depends on the person.
That's pretty cool, though. That's pretty. I always want to figure out what's going on within the background, how things work, because you be hearing about all these things that happen. Oh, recruiter did this. The recruiters always getting blamed, right, for what happened,
Recruiters
and I
get
know it don't
blamed for
happen like
the
that.
recruiters get blamed for everything.
Yeah, I know it don't happen like that. You in a different phase of your life now. You a family man now. You're doing big things up there. How is it trying to balance the whole, we'll call it life work balance in terms of the family piece and your job and all that? How's that been going so far? I mean, how's that you've been working with that? How's that been going for you?
Um, it's been pretty easy. That was another reason too that kind of made me stay in recruiting. With recruiting, um, we don't have to worry about, going to the field. I
Yeah,
don't have to worry about getting deployed and stuff like that. So, in recruiting, it really gives you that, work-life balance because you're able to see your family every night.
we're not. Yeah,
When you're done with work, you're coming home to see your family, compared to regular army where, you may have to go to the field, you may have a rotation, you may have things like that. So, me starting a family, that was one of the big reasons of me transitioning over to this side too, because it allows for that, work life balance.
that's pretty cool though. You discussed earlier during the discussion that you lost a comrade while you deployed. And that's one thing a lot of folks don't talk about, right? Deployments. It's a very, very critical time in the soldier's life when you deploy because you're with a family and everybody else. You deal with your folks who you deploy with. It's a very, very tough place to be sometimes mentally because you have no idea what's going to happen really. So, how were you able to really navigate that, deploying, losing a friend, and all that stuff? How were you able to navigate that? Because sometimes that can be very, very stressful in terms of how you navigate that, and when you lose somebody close to you or somebody who's not too close to you, but you know him or her, or just somebody within the organization. How were you able to maneuver that?
Um, During deployment, when it happened, it was really tough because like I grew up my whole life, I never seen, anybody,
Yeah,
you know, pass away in front, stuff like that. Never seen, suicide committed, whatever. But that situation was kind of tough because the suicide happened in front of me.
oh,
So to walking out with a battle buddy and they take a gun and they shoot themselves right in front
get
of you,
out of
body.
here, man.
Yeah. So when that happened, I was kind of in shock. I was froze. I couldn't even touch the guy when he fell on the ground because I'm just standing there stuck. So I wanted to leave deployment immediately. I wanted to go home. I wanted to get out of there, but the mission got to go on. So we had to be strong and complete the tour. When I came back, I would say I felt out of place, felt like I didn't belong, and stuff like that. My anxiety, dealing with anxiety and things like that. But I would say the biggest thing that helped me from that situation would just be talking to people, like talking about it, like me talking about it right now. I'm able to just get it off my chest,
Yeah,
so I can talk about it to people and explain the situation and not feel like I gotta hold it in. So me telling the story and explaining it and talking about it, that kind of helped me overcome the situation. Yeah, so I would say that that's the biggest thing that kind of helped me with that.
Thanks for sharing that, man. I had a friend of mine on the podcast, Webster. He's big in the suicide prevention for military personnel, both active duty and retiree and veterans. And he talked about it, man. I think it's what in every 21 second a veteran commits suicide. And the Army had all of these mechanism in place in terms of the training and behavioral health, everything else. But you just don't know what's happened to that person mentally. You have no
Mm-mm.
idea emotion what's going on with them. And I tell folks, man, if you have issues, man, no matter what it is, talk to somebody. Go to behavioral health. When I was in the military, I went and talked to behavioral health because of my deployment and stuff like that. We're all being affected. And the Army is a place that it's not perfect, but the Army have all these resources that folks can tap into. Even as a veteran, they have all these resources folks can tap into to make sure they seek some kind of help and talk to somebody, whatever the case may be. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us here, man. As we get to the end here, man, what are some advice will you give to someone who is considering or not considering or currently serving? Just based on your experiences. And I would like to talk about your last deployment with the SF guys, but I don't want to go into no deep top, G14 classified stuff. But what are some advice, man, will you give out to folks out there who may be considering, serving who's currently on active duty?
The biggest thing that I've lived by for the longest, even when I was homeless my sophomore year in college, is you guys have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. That's
Mm,
like I live by that. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. When I mean that, the military is gonna make you uncomfortable. You're gonna join the military. It's gonna be a culture shock. You're gonna meet new people. You're gonna travel to new places, but you just have to, like they said, the army goes rolling along. So you gotta
mhm.
you got to keep rolling. But
Yeah,
if you're looking for something different to do in life, if you're looking for a brotherhood, if you're looking for stability, if you're looking for just just that family, that bond, the lifelong friendships, the military is definitely the way to go. It's not all about war. It's not all about Call of Duty and the things that people see
yeah, or video
online.
games.
The military is bigger than just war. The
Yeah,
military is helping millions of families, has helped millions of families, and is still continuing to help millions of families. The military is not just about the soldiers. The military is about the families, the
yeah,
kids. Like I said, the programs, they don't have to have all those programs in place. They have
mm,
those programs in place for soldiers, for spouses, for kids. Everything is set up for the total family concept in the military. So if you're just looking for something different, even for single people as well, not just married people, but if you're just looking for something different to kind of help you get a head start in life, get you even further in life, or just exploring new options, then definitely the army is or the military in general is the way to go.
that's a daggone recruiter for you right there, man. Give you a little recruiting pitch. That's what I'm talking about. No, man, you
Yep.
you you absolutely right though. You're absolutely right. The army or the military as a whole. I want to speak for the army internally, but the military as a whole is a good place to be. The benefit is outstanding, really. The benefit is there. No matter if you're on active duty, reserve, whatever the case may be. I mean, when you're retired, that benefit that folks take for granted. Somewhat I understand, but it is there. It's a good place to be. Man, I appreciate you, man. As always, I'm proud of you. I'm happy for you and the family, and I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your overall experiences. I'm going to try to bring you back on here again to talk more about the recruiting piece because we got to make sure the army meets our numbers, man. I'm sick of hearing the Marines Corps be dusting us
We
off, but we got to make sure we meet our numbers. And I know you
met our
guys out
numbers
there doing.
last year. We
I
met the
know.
mission last year.
Hey, I'm not trying to fight nobody. We just got to keep that consistency going. But I know we got guys like you out there. We're gonna be able to meet those numbers, man. And before we get out of here, man, is there anything else you want to say, man, before we log out?
Hey man, follow me on Instagram at Jope the Recruiter, at
That's
DIOP the Recruiter.
what's up, man. I appreciate you, brother. Thanks a lot, man. Okay.